Did I miss anything, you fucking weirdo?
Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. I'm Eric,
And I'm Lillian.
and we are here today for Sansa number 5. I normally go through and say our podcast title here, but it's getting to a point where I'm just like, I don't even care what the fuck we call this.
Oh,
You had a bunch of suggestions today, and I appreciate your effort, but I hated them all.
I did too. That was kind of the point. I was bored at work and it just kind of happened.
The first one, where it was "We do not sew," but it's
Yeah.
sew with like knitting and shit. I was
Yeah.
just like, that's funny, but they won't read it, so it won't
So
make
it's
sense.
just gonna sound stupid.
And
Yeah.
then everything else. And then I was just like, maybe I can find some. Add a Song of Ice and Fire puns, and I didn't get a whole lot. I just got a bunch of Reddit stuff. But anyway, I digress. We are here for Sansa Chapter 5. As always with the podcast, we are going to go first with a brief chapter summary. We are going to discuss who the main focus of the chapter is on. We move on to who held the biggest influence over the POV character and why. We talk about any alternative actions the POV character could and should have done. We move on to how the actions in this chapter affect the other plots. And then we close out with quotes, standout appearances, and then any theories that may apply.
Or whatever else.
We're starting to
doesn't
get
fit.
into this. Yeah, we're starting to get to a trend where like theories don't apply to every single chapter, but we kind of have adjusted into a what if this would have happened instead. But right now, I hand the reins over to Lillian.
The chapter opens with Sansa attending Joffrey's first court session. She makes her way through the small crowd and notices no one will make eye contact or speak with her. Joffrey takes his place on the throne as Pycelle reads his decrees. Pycelle reads off a long list of names, including all of Sansa's family members, insisting they present themselves at court and swear oaths of fealty. Additionally, Tywin is named Han, Cersei is given a seat on the small council, and Janos Slynt is raised to Lord. Cersei informs Sir Barristan he is to be relieved of his duties as Lord Commander of the Kingsguard. Barristan protests and ends up being shamed that 3 kings have died under his watch. Barristan removes his armor, throws down his sword, and tells Joffrey to add it to his throne. Sansa begs for mercy for Ned, and Joff agrees to show mercy only if Ned confesses his crimes and proclaims him as king. Did I miss anything, you fucking weirdo? I kept like looking at you and trying to read at the same time. It's like you're fucking like had a cape on or some shit. Eric is wrapping himself in a blanket.
I was only putting I was throwing a blanket over me.
Well,
I have to turn the fan off or it'll pick up on the microphone, so I have the windows open behind me, and
so you're
you know, it's
cold?
kind of cold. It's January in DC.
So why do you have the window open then?
Because it's hot in this room, and then if I have the fan on, you're going to pick up fan humming in the mic, so I have to have the windows open.
So that
If I
allows
close the
for
windows,
you to
it gets
look
like
like a
super
fucking
stifling and
weirdo
hot.
with a cape.
It was stuck under my other blankets and shit, so I had to like stretch it out.
It looks so funny.
You act like
I'm sorry. Well, because I'm
fuck
trying.
you.
No,
Hey, I'm angry. I'm hot now. I'm angry.
because I was trying to read, and all I see is like color from the side, and I look over, and you're just fucking. Put your blanket back on.
Janos Slynt also got a spot on the small council too.
Oh, that's right. I completely forgot about that.
Did City Watch like Lord Commanders, like that's a new thing for him, right? Like, was there anything else attached to Janos Slynt to justify it, or just because like he betrayed Ned, so like they're rewarding him for his loyalty / treachery?
That's how I read it, was that they were giving him
Yeah.
Harrenhal and making him a lord to reward him for his assistance or whatever with the whole traitor situation.
Yeah, that's how I was getting it too. Yeah, I just noticed that because normally it's like, key positions and everything on there, and I guess that's how they justify it. Like, he's Lord Commander of the City Watch, so that's how he gets it. And he's also Lord of Harrenhal and all this other stuff.
Which I think is so stupid. Like, what is the point? I guess I get the point of giving him Harrenhal because then it goes to his sons, so they have lands and titles or whatever else. But as Lord Commander of the Gold Cloaks, he's never going to enjoy it. You know what I'm saying?
It's also too like because Lady Wentz or the Wentz in general, Lady Wentz specifically, they still held Harrenhal. We find out in the Tyrion chapter we just did that they were that she submitted to Tywin. So it's just like that. Like she's stripped of her house and like her family's kicked out. Like that happened really quick. Like did anyone ever tell her? Because Janos doesn't move into Harrenhal.
So she's sitting in someone else's castle.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like how which Tyrell kid gets awarded Brightwater Keep? Is it Willis or Garland? It's Garland.
Garland.
Yeah. So Garland gets awarded it, and he carries the title of Lord of Brightwater Keep, but like he hasn't gone there yet, and is still being held by one of the Florents. So
is he
I don't know. Maybe it's one of
right
those situations. Loris is not Willis. Willis is back in Highgarden.
No, Willis is in Highgarden.
Or Garland.
Loris, yes. Where is Garland?
I don't know where Garland is. King's Landing. I don't remember. I can't.
Okay.
I can't say any spot with certainty, but I'd imagine King's Landing still. I don't know. Anyway, we're kind of tracking off already here. Who do you think is the main character of this chapter?
Oh, I completely forgot that was a point. So I had that Sansa is the main character for this chapter.
I put the main character as Barristan. We do have Sansa giving her pleading speech at the end, but I think the center focus, like the big quote action piece of this chapter was on Barristan. Sansa was just our lens to view it, because that's the most important thing that happens here.
I was torn on that. I had thought about that, but then I kept thinking, because in previous episodes that we've done, I think I usually do the biggest influence and standout as the same. And so I was trying to do it different this time, and so I considered it to be Sansa, and then I included Barristan in my standout.
Yeah, I can see that happening. The way I differentiate that, because what was it in our last chapter was our last
Tywin.
Sansa chapter.
Oh, okay.
The last Sansa chapter, Sansa was the main character, right? But then we had like Cersei as a stand-up because Cersei like did a great job manipulating Sansa's decisions and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So like, and I think I have Cersei, or no, I have. We'll get to our current chapter stand-up characters later. But,
okay.
But yeah, no, it is a tough line to differentiate that, but I didn't think Sansa did much aside from watch the small council make these decisions and then fire Barristan, and then she came in at the end, just asking mercy for Ned, and I didn't think that Sansa was like the focus of the chapter. I mean, really, I guess the focus is the small council, but the big event was centered around Barristan. But fuck yeah, maybe the small council, just as them as a
as a collective unit.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't even. I think I mentioned this somewhere in my notes, but I don't know how much the council actually like weighed in as a council on half of these decisions. They seem to mostly be coming from Joffrey via Cersei.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay. Yeah.
So, I mean, because officially and publicly, the small council is doing all of this stuff, but you can almost like tell it's coming straight from, like Cersei might be just saying all this stuff herself. So yeah, so maybe I should change mine to the small council / Cersei / Joffrey, but I think the big focus here is on Barristan getting fired, because he kind of rifles off a bunch of sick quotes. So that's who I have as my main character. Okay, so jumping on to who held the biggest influence over the POV character. So obviously this is a Sansa chapter, and I think the biggest influence was Joffrey and Cersei over her. What do you have?
Okay, so I have Cersei and Joffrey were the biggest influence over Sansa. Basically, she models her behaviors after Cersei, and because she spends hours on her appearance, basically making sure that she looks like a proper lady, and she wants to impress Joffrey. Based off of Joffrey's reactions to her statements while she's pleading for Ned, it dictated what she did after that. How she spoke to him, her special secret smile or whatever it was between her and Joffrey, which was just fucking weird.
Um, I kind of think you mentioned like that she was trying to act like a lady and like almost like modeling out of Cersei. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Um, I'm gonna challenge you on that because she specifically remembers that she needs to be strong like her mother. So I think she was trying to emulate Catelyn and that, trying to be like a dignified, proper Northern woman. We know Catelyn's a Riverlander, but as far as Sansa knows, Cat's a Northern matriarch. So I think she was trying to do her best to emulate her mother there, because for whatever reason, Sansa sees her mother as like a really strong individual. We get a different view of that because we're in Catelyn's head and like we see her do all these things, but I don't know what Sansa would have seen to really give her that impression. I mean, probably just normal, typical mother-daughter stuff, or her just like Catelyn being in charge of stuff back at Winterfell, I suppose. But
Yeah, I would imagine that at Winterfell, Kat was very ladylike. I don't know if she would have attended councils with Ned or anything like that, but I could see her being very formal with people. So maybe that's what Sansa meant
yeah,
by that.
definitely.
Because there is definitely that line where she specifically calls out she needed to be like her mother. But when she's talking about she wore the silk gown that Cersei had given her, but they had dyed it black so they couldn't see the stain from Arya, and she spent all this time going over jewelry, that reminded me of Cersei, that she was trying to emulate the look of Cersei at least.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. I definitely get you on there. Sansa would be pretty proud of her mom if she actually knew like everything that Catelyn actually went through and doing.
Would she?
Why wouldn't she? Catelyn does a ton of stuff that's like really ballsy moves.
Yeah, she does, but
Catelyn's
Sansa,
like she's in the middle of a lot of shit, and I think she comes out with a lot of times the best result that she could have hoped for, given the circumstances that she was involved in, and like the things that she had control over.
in Sansa's current mindset right now, through a storm of swords, I don't know necessarily that she would be impressed with her mother. I think she might be disturbed or worried for her. I don't think it's until Sansa becomes Elaine and realizes that the world is cruel and the things you have to go through that she would really appreciate the things that her mother did for her family. Like have a true appreciation for it.
I don't know if I would use the word disturbed. I kind of reserve that for the Aryas of the world. Yeah, you're right. I don't think Sansa would have particularly understood like the gravity of Catelyn's decisions and like the moves she had to make. So yeah, you're right. Not until she gets older and like until she's actually seen some shit. Yeah, that's a good point. Um, Apparently, like looking at my notes now, like I didn't have a whole lot for like what they actually did to influence Sansa herself. So yeah, we're just gonna move right on past that, and we're gonna jump right into alternative actions that Sansa could have taken. And I kind of jumped around to because there was a lot of stuff made here, so I went through and like talked about different decisions that a bunch of the characters could have done here. So for Sansa, for her part, I think she did it well. She didn't do much aside from just like lay low until it was time for her to talk. I think her speech, or she presented her case to Joffrey fairly eloquently. She used all the right courtesies and all the right words and everything that would have been expected of someone to make a case before a king. And it seems like it worked. Joffrey stood up and said like her words have moved him. Joffrey's a psychopath, so we know that doesn't actually work out. But his act that he puts on there in the council seems convincing to at least to me as a reader and to Sansa as a character. And that really makes me think that in addition to reading what Sansa actually said, she played her part almost flawlessly.
She should have. She said she rehearsed the words so many times.
And it's good that she nailed it. So we can give her props. Come on, give the girl props. You hate her, but
I
what did she do wrong here? What do you think Sansa should have done differently?
should have fucking run.
She should have run.
She says specifically that she's given free reign of the castle, and once she got into the throne room, it was the one time like she wasn't guarded. The Kingsguard were doing their thing or whatever, and she says she's giving free reign of the castle, and she makes note that there are Lannister guards and the gold cloaks, but I just wonder.
Everywhere, especially at the gates.
Okay, but I would assume Sansa, the way people would recognize Sansa is because of her bright red hair. I don't think necessarily that they all know her face. I think they would see the hair. So my thought was, how hard would it be to like cover your hair up and get a serving girl's clothes?
I don't know. Not that hard, and it doesn't seem like a difficult task.
Yeah, so she should have fucking left.
And then condemn Ned to die, because she thinks she's Ned's only hope.
She's a fucking
She's
idiot.
there purely to try to save Ned, to convince Joffrey to spare Ned. Because everyone
She
else, like as far as she can tell, Varys and Pycelle, they're all gunning for Ned to die a traitor's death. She doesn't know any better about the Night's Watch or being pardoned by adults and shit like that. She thinks Ned's gonna die, and she thinks it's up to her to stop Ned from dying and to prevent Robb and Catelyn from stirring up more stuff.
At this point though, she does know that Robb called the banners, right?
She writes the letters telling him not to. I don't know if they know, because we skipped the Bran chapters and the Cat chapters that haven't been gathered. I think they're at Moat Cailin now. Yeah, if Tywin's right there. I assume Cersei would know. I don't know if Sansa
If
would
they've
know.
shared that information.
Yeah,
Okay.
like she might have heard like through the grapevine, but I don't know if they'd come to her directly and be like, "Hey, by the way, your brother's army is about to invade."
So
And
regardless of Robb, Sansa
I don't know.
Sansa isn't a brave person in general. So I don't
That'd
see
take too
her.
bravery to go up there and say that. Especially like when she walks in and no one like wants to look at her or talk to her. She doesn't get discouraged then. Like she stays there and she says her piece that she came there to say. I think that takes a certain amount of courage.
But it's all based on lies. It's all based on Cersei. Well, we don't know if Cersei was being genuine and Joffrey was just a fucking madman. You know,
I'm
because
fairly certain that Joffrey just changed his mind at the last minute. Or like the night before the execution or something.
okay, fine. Well, I thought
But
Sansa should have
he's
run.
such an unreadable character that I don't know if he's just like getting this act the entire time. Because like he never really backtracks into like his nice guy. Because he's in nice guy Joffrey mode now in this chapter. He almost acts like a legitimate king, where he's like stern, but he's actually showing mercy. He's moved by the pretty girl that is supposed to be his betrothed. Like her petition, he's like, okay, yeah, your sweet words have moved me and stuff like that. So like he's almost being like a model king, like almost acting above his age. But we know he snaps and he goes crazy later, which I think like makes that turn like so much worse. Because like we see a little bit here and there, like up to now.
Yeah,
I
when
can't exactly like
he snaps
say
at
like what
her.
my initial feelings were.
Well, because when he snaps at her with the whole Nymeria situation and whatever else, he's a brat, and then Cersei, I think, makes a comment to him that he needs to go comfort her later on in like the next chapter, and she didn't see him at all in the last chapter when,
Yeah, because they wouldn't let her see. But like
yeah,
after the Arya thing, he hangs out with her at the turning of the hand. Remember? And they have
hmm
like a great time all night, and then he just like ups and leaves, like
yeah,
really abruptly. He's not like mean to her. He just kind of ditches her for whatever reason, probably to go like skin cats or something. I don't know. No, what I was saying was like I can't give like an accurate assessment of like what my opinion of Joffrey was at this point reading the books because I was already tainted by the show, and the show kind of made him look like an asshole the entire time. Like they
yeah,
never showed him this kind of like this good side. Like rereading the books now, like his I don't want to call it bipolarness because I'm not a psychiatrist. I can't like diagnose that kind of shit. But like his good cop bad cop kind of sort of thing, like his good side is convincing, and then like his couple episodes of like crazy person are convincing, and then like after he snaps when he orders Ned's execution, like he never goes back to being any kind of like convincing normal person. He just like fully commits to like, oh, I'm an insane psycho now. Let's fucking do this. And then he just sees to see how much of an asshole and a pussy he can be afterwards.
well, we do see it again. We see his nice side or his soft side once Marjorie comes into the picture because he has to play that part again.
I vaguely. No, I don't remember. That's Storm of Swords, right?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, because Clash closes out with
With
Blackwater
Blackwater?
for the most part.
Okay.
Yeah,
Then
it's not
yeah.
like the last chapter, but like that's towards the end, and I don't think Marjorie really comes in until Storm. Yeah, I can't recall on how he acts in his initial meeting with Marjorie. But yeah, no, because judging from the show alone, bad idea to do this. But Olenna has to ask Sansa if Joffrey is like legit or if he's fucking weird. And Sansa's just like,
It's in the book too.
okay, I just didn't remember it being in the book. I'm remembering that part in the show.
It's way better in the book. Everything's way better in the books, but that scene is...
In 18 months when we hit that chapter, I'll remember this, and I'll give you the props.
Oh my lord, 18 months.
You guys will still listen then, right?
Okay. What else
Anyway,
do you have?
let's. So I had Cersei and Joff on alternative actions. They could have not fucking fired Barristan. I think that would have been a great move by them to not fucking do that. He had enough sass to give him a fuck you, but not enough to be called outright treason and be arrested on the spot. Like, he had enough subtlety, like, in his words that he was able to, like, leave the room before Joffrey was just like, oh, no, wait a minute, fuck that guy, bring him back. But I thought Barristan played it perfectly, and, like, I just had to bring it out right here. I go into a couple of his quotes a bit later on, but since Sansa couldn't really do anything different, I had to put Barristan in there. His actions were very controversial. He was, like, walking a fine line right there between being beheaded on the spot and being able to do what he did, and I think he executed that perfectly.
There's no chance of him being beheaded on the spot. Who the fuck would capture him?
He said, I mean, like, they could have tried, is what I'm saying. Like, because he's able to leave the room before Joffrey's just like, wait, no, bring that motherfucker back, arrest him.
I'm sure we're both talking...
saying it on the spot in the room.
Yeah.
Because Barristan, he's like, I hope Stannis comes and, like, takes your throne, boy, and then walks out. And, like, that should be, like, fuck, seize this cap, arrest him, now. But, like, he's able to walk out first before they do that.
He takes the long way out.
So that's all I'm saying. There's enough people there. Like, Barristan is, like, a great fighter and all, but there's 50 gold cloaks on one side, 50 Lannister guards on the other side, plus all the Kingsguard. He's not going to get, like, if 107 people collapse on him, he's not killing all 107 of them. He's not Syrio Pharrell.
Oh, God. He could be. He could be. He could be Syrio.
Is that a theory?
No, but we're making it one right now. Since Syrio's fucking everybody else. Why not? Ned.
Anyway, what do you have? I'm not entertaining this. I'm cutting you off. Yeah, you're the crazy theory person, not me.
Yeah. Okay.
What do you have?
All I had was that Sansa should have ran.
I don't think she should have ran.
So moving on, how the events of this chapter affect the other plots. I have a couple things. The first one being Sansa pleading for Ned's life. That leads to Varys visiting Ned's in the Black Cells and letting him know, basically, Sansa begged for your life and it's up to you and your actions on whether or not you want to see Sansa's head on a pike. It is called a pike, right?
Sure. Yeah. Head on a pike, head on a spike. Spike, yeah, they use spike.
Well, yeah, that's why
pike's like a weapon. They put heads on spikes, is the phrase. Spike and pike, I can see how you got it.
That's why I started. Okay. Anyways. And beyond that, Joff's decrees of basically all of the lords, because he calls out Stannis, Renly, Piper, Vance, Bracken, Blackwood, Tully, everybody, like all of the major lords, to get them to come to court and pledge fealty. It adds to the mounting tensions in the north and the Riverlands. And then my last point was Barristan's dismissal frees him to join the Targaryen cause over in Essos.
Yeah. I touched on a lot of those too. So my first one I have, it sets Barry to Daenerys, and I kind of tracked this over into our closing out piece, or what ifs, because Barry does mention Stannis. So I was like, why didn't Barristan go to Stannis instead? But we'll talk about that later on. Obviously, dismissing Barry is unprecedented, and his spot on the Kingsguard, at least, was replaced by Sandor, so this definitely gives Sandor a bigger role than just Joffrey's sworn shield. He's not a knight. This is the first Kingsguard person, or Kingsguard appointee, that isn't a knight. Boris points it out, and Sandor gets off on the right foot by talking shit to him back, so I don't think he's making many friends anytime quick. Jaime is named Lord Commander of the Kingsguard, which is something that follows through all the way through to the current point in the series into a Winter. I have Tyrion is named Hand, which
Tywin is named Hand. The chapter I have to post tonight for the Citadel is Tywin telling Tyrion that he's gonna go.
Yeah. Oh fuck! I wrote Tywin named Hand. Never mind. I saw Ty and thought it was Tyrion. I'm not stupid. I can read. Tywin is named Hand, which fills in the vacancy left by Ned, and leads to all kinds of things with Tyrion later on, especially in that chapter that you're referring to for the Citadel.
I get it. That's where you're going with it. Okay.
Yeah. And then I also had Stannis is named a traitor. I don't think he was named a traitor before, right? I know we did skip Brandon Catelyn chapters, but I don't think we skipped any King's Landing type chapters.
Mm-mm.
So this is the first time that Stannis is actually branded a traitor. And no one else is in those declaring the lords to swear fealty. No one else is called a traitor, I believe. So I looked for Renly, and Renly hasn't declared himself yet.
No,
so
not yet.
He's not recognized as a traitor. So it's only Stannis. So this is very important for Stannis. I think we're both checking the book right now. Just
Yep.
check me. In place of the traitor Stannis Baratheon, and it is his wish of his grace that his lady mother, the Queen Regent Cersei Lannister, fought on the small council. So yeah, this is the first time Stannis is named as a traitor, which obviously has significant impact on Stannis' actions moving forward. So yeah, Barristan getting dismissed. Sandor gets a bigger role. Jaime is named Lord Commander throughout the rest of the books as we know them. Tywin is named Hand, and then Stannis is named Traitor. These are all things that happen here that have overarching rippling effects throughout the rest of the series. Really a big chapter that kind of gets overlooked here, but I mean these are some really important things that happen here. You have anything to add to that?
No, I think those were some good call-outs. The only question I have, you said Jaime is still Lord Commander. You said through Winds. Do we hear about him in any of the Winds sample chapters?
No.
Okay, so that was just a random...
No. It's just through Dance and into Winds.
Okay.
So let's move on into quotes. So my first one is on page 622, and it's from Joffrey. Joffrey says, "You let my father die," Joffrey said accusingly from atop the Iron Throne. "You're too old to protect anybody." I thought that was pretty funny, considering what we know Barristan goes on to do, like how wrong Joffrey.
I like how we're both covering ourselves with our books.
What was that?
Because those lines pissed me off reading them.
I meant funny, like in an ironic way. Like,
well,
you're too old to protect
that.
anybody. And
that's why I closed my mouth.
Oh, come on. You're just sitting there gaping at me like I said some guy. Jesus.
Sorry.
Funny in an ironic way. Like, you are so wrong. How can you be more wrong?
Okay.
Oh, fuck. So, yeah, that was the quote. That's why it was funny. Just he's too old to protect anybody, and we're just like, oh, Joffrey, how wrong you are.
That whole situation just pissed me off. Because then Peter points out, all of the kings that he served are dead, and it's like, fuck you. You don't talk to Barristan that way. So my first one that I have...
You can't blame... Oh, I was just going to riff off that point. You can't blame him for Jaehaerys dying. You can't blame him for Aerys dying. I mean, you could be like, you should have fought harder as Trident, but...
that still wouldn't have
that
saved
was more...
him.
Yeah, that was Rhaegar's fault for dying. And then he has some kind of responsibility for Robert, I suppose.
Robert told him to stand aside, though. He followed the orders.
Yeah, it's a gray situation there.
How did he know
could
the
have
boar,
done something.
How did he know the boar was going to kill Robert?
Well, I mean, he doesn't have foresight, but
Greensight?
we don't know what actually happened. No, he didn't have the foresight to know that the boar would kill him.
Okay.
Yeah, that was bad.
Well, since we were talking about Greensight the other day, I don't think he can be held responsible for that at all. Because what is part of the oath...
I'm not saying he should be held responsible, but I think there's a certain amount of, I don't want to say blame, but I'm going to say blame, that you can put on him for Robert's death. That was a situation he could have had probably more control over. We're not there. We don't see it happen. But I think Barristan should have been able to do something.
Part of the Kingsguard oaths is literally to serve the king.
But the fucking name is to guard the king. Could guard him from the damn pig.
What the fuck is he gonna do? Put himself between the pig and Robert's gonna stab him on the way to the pig?
Kingsguard's supposed to give his life for the king. Yeah. No, that was fuck. I don't know what I'm trying to argue here. Maybe he could have kept him from drinking so much. But the other kings dying, I think there's a lot less that you can hold Barristan responsible for as opposed to Robert's death.
Yeah, I don't think he could or should be held responsible for any of them. So that's why when those lines were said, it just pissed me off. And so hence my response to you when you said that line from Joffrey. So one quote that I called out was in Sansa's mind, when she's in the throne room, making her way through the crowd, she notes, there were no more than 20, where 100 had been accustomed to wait upon King Robert. And so I started to think, is that because Joffrey is a new ruler? Or is it because people are already questioning Joffrey's claim? Like, why are there so few people there to attend him?
That's a good question. How long has Joffrey been officially proclaimed as the ruler?
I think it's less than a fortnight.
Well, we know the Tyrells. Well, no, because they pick up with Renly. I mean, maybe it's supposed to just show the like how divided the realm actually is.
Okay.
Because Renly, takes off immediately to Highgarden, and we're assuming like he's already met up with them, or maybe not already met up with them, but like Mace would have to run into Renly before he obviously makes his way to King's Landing. The Arryns in the Vale, they're not sending anybody, and then obviously they're not the North, and Duran is doing his thing where he just kind of sits out. So yeah, I think it's just supposed to represent how fractured the realm is right now, and like how loose Robert kind of left it.
Okay. Makes sense.
I missed this part of my notes here when we were talking about it, but going back to my first quote where he says he's too old, the purpose of me bringing up that quote is, I said, if only death can replace the Kingsguard, what happens if all 7 are old, injured, frail, or weak, or something like that? Because we see it a lot with Boris Blunt and Meryn Trant, how they're like not that much of warrior people, kind of sort of thing. But if Barristan was too old, say like all 7 like were named relatively around the same time, same age or so, and like as the years go on, like all 7 are like 60 years old and like have arthritis and shit. If only death can replace the Kingsguard, like is this new king? We'll say like the king got made at like he's like 25 years old and he's surrounded by a bunch of 70-year-old knights for his Kingsguard. How does he get around that? Does he just have like his own personal bodyguard unit? Like, you guys will remain Kingsguard, quote unquote, for honorable guards and shit like that. Like, so you can keep your position because we can't fire you. But like, let's be real, like, y'all aren't protecting us from shit.
It's an HR lawsuit.
Like, I have my own hound. Like, I have like 7 other Sandors like hanging around me, and you guys can keep your white cloaks. But like, these guys are actually going to protect me. Like, would that be like a feasible thing to do? I guess.
You would think at some point they would have to find a way to retire them, I guess, if it got to that point. But at the same time, so this is modeled after,
You can't retire. You have to kill them.
Okay, so what I was saying was if in the event that actually happened, that they all ended up elderly, a king can do what he wants basically, so possibly set up some type of retirement plan. I don't know.
But they can't.
They could change the vows.
Well, you can't change the vows. I'm just like, obviously that
you could find a loophole. If you can find a
happened.
loophole in the vows, because according to show watchers and some book readers, Jon found a loophole in the vows of the Night's Watch, and those are supposed to be for life too. So.
Okay, come on. You're not suggesting that they kill everybody. He's released. We got a fucking platoon of Red Priest over here just to revive everybody up.
Oh my god.
No.
That's not what I was saying, but that's great. That's not what I was saying, but I like that.
That was Jon's loophole, was that he died for like 20, or what, like an hour and a half, 2 hours, one episode. And then he gets brought back, and he's just like, oh, that's convenient. I don't have to fucking stay here anymore.
Okay. No, I remember my other points. So it's based off of feudal, medieval Europe, whatever. And did people live that long? Like, would a
Barristan's
knight...
like 60.
I just don't think it's reasonable that 7 old guys are going to make it that long.
Okay, well, if they're all named around the same age and they all like become sickly at the same time of age, like how old do you think they'd be whenever they start becoming frail? 50? Like the age doesn't matter. Just like if they're all relatively young people, but I guess they wouldn't. Well, I mean, because like circumstances can happen to where like you have them staggered in age, but like they die at certain times, so like you guys get named. So like if that ever happened, like that'd just be an interesting little conundrum for a king to have. A bunch of old fucking gimped up battle scarred dudes as his Kingsguard, and he can't really fucking get rid of them.
Well, he's got one-handed Jamie and can't get rid of him.
Yeah, I know. He's a fucking left-handed Lord Commander stuck there for the rest of the time until he dies. So my quote is on page 623 leading into 624 from Sir Barristan Selmy. Sir Boris and Sir Meryn moved forward to confront him, but Sir Barristan froze him in place with a look that dripped contempt. Have no fear, sirs, your king is safe, no thanks to you. Even now I could cut through the 5 of you as easy as dagger cuts cheese. If you would serve under the Kingslayer, not one of you is fit to wear the white. And then he throws his shit down, and he says, melt it. It will do you more good than the swords in the hands of these 5. Perhaps Lord Stannis will sit on it whenever he takes your throne. So I was just like, oh shit, Barristan. Boy, you cannot be saying that stuff. Outright treason from the get-go. Or, not from the get-go, but from the end. Like, closing out with straight-up treason.
Is that really treason, though? He doesn't say when King Stannis.
Fucking...
He says when Lord Stannis comes to take the throne. So he's not saying that Joffrey isn't
Lord Stannis,
king.
Perhaps Lord Stannis will chance to sit on it when he takes your throne.
How is that considered treason? It's treason by declaring someone else the king. That's what Ned was doing, was declaring that Stannis is the rightful king and dismissing Joffrey's claim. So how is this technically treason, or is this just being an asshole?
He's telling the king that someone else is going to kill him and take his throne.
How is that treason?
You don't think Joffrey would see that as treason?
I'm trying to think. Okay,
I think that's clearly treason.
Okay, I don't see it necessarily as treason, though. Or maybe I just don't understand what...
Given the audience that it's spoken to, I can see them labeling it as that and immediately getting pissed off and like trying to arrest him. We're not dealing with rational people here. Cersei Lannister's in the room. Joffrey Lannister, Baratheon, Lannister - Baratheon.
Question, since you said that. So when the Herald
Answer.
comes... when... The herald announces him, all hail his grace, Joffrey of the houses Baratheon and Lannister. First of his name, King of the Annals, born under the first men, blah, 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 blah. We all know how that goes. Why is he announced like that? You know, as far as we know, none of the Targaryen kings were announced of the houses Targaryen and Velaryon, of the houses Targaryen and Hightower, you know, whoever the hell the wife was. Why does this one? Robert was Robert Baratheon. Robert wasn't Robert of the houses Baratheon and Estermont.
I am going to say that we never hear them announce any other king. Do we? How knowledgeable are you in heraldic terms and proper announcement and courtesies? Because I am not that learned in how they do it in Westeros. So this could be entirely fucking normal.
Well, I'm going to the first one that was ever proclaimed this, so I just need to make sure that I get the parents right, because I'm not sure who his parents are.
Who?
Aegon the First Targaryen. Were both of his parents Targs?
Probably. He's a fucking Targaryen.
No, his mother was Velaryon. So when Visenya crowns him, says, all hail Aegon Targaryen, blah, 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 blah. Nobody ever said Aegon of houses Targaryen and Velaryon.
I just heard you say blah, 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 blah. They could have said, all hail King Aegon of House Targaryen and House Velaryon. No, I don't know. I mean, it's definitely odd. But I mean, like, your evidence is 300 years old.
And?
And it's 300 years old.
Feudal
society. I know we often reference today things that happened 300 years ago. So you do have a point.
The Kingsguard came about roughly 300 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So?
What's your point?
What is your point?
My point is that things have probably changed in 300 years. So it could be entirely normal. it could be just a weird fucking thing because the Lannisters are actually in power, so they may want to make sure their name is pronounced. That's probably more likely, considering a Baratheon hasn't been in King's Landing since Friendly fucking took off, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like Baratheon and Lannister. Because everybody knows the Lannisters hold the power there, it's not the Baratheons at all.
I just think it doesn't help with the argument later on that Joffrey is Robert's son, because, eventually it starts getting out that the kids are all a product of incest, and so by constantly claiming him of being of the houses Baratheon and Lannister, like, this is the first time in textual evidence that it's bothered me, but I've always thought about how he, like, splits his crest and the way he dresses and things like that. I'm like, why are you doing that? He legitimately thinks Robert is his father. He thinks of Robert as a good person, because later he berates Jaime, like, oh, what have you done? It doesn't help the situation at all.
To branch off of that, I really wish we would have heard Joffrey speak more about how much he liked Robert. I think maybe it would have humanized him a little bit more, if we actually knew that there was actually a figure that he actually did look up to.
That he had real feelings as a person?
Maybe, I don't know if I'd call it real feelings. It just would have been interesting to see that part of Joffrey humanized to make his turn to, psychotic.
To make it worse?
No, like, to make the shift.
Yeah, to make it more dramatic.
Stand up that much more.
Yeah.
Because we're just like, oh, he's a little weird, like, he's a little angry sometimes, but he's nice to Sansa. Sansa really likes him. He really likes his dad. He wants to be like his dad, and then he just, like, flips switch and he's just a fucking psychopath for the rest of the time. I kind of don't like that about him now that I think about it. Like, he seems too much of a cartoony little villain. You know what I'm saying? He's not a great character. Not at all. Great character.
There's no depth to him. He just is what he is.
I almost want to say there's no greatness to Ramsay either, but you kind of get a sense of his bitterness and his jealousy to being a bastard, or his not really his jealousy to being a bastard, but like his disdain for being called a bastard, and that kind of what drives him to act out almost. Acting out is kind of minimizing it, but he does act in an extreme manner, and I think it's to kind of not really shed the bastard image on him, but to prove that he is better than him being a bastard.
He sure as hell does not. Yeah, he sure as hell does not improve, the whole reputation that bastards have whatsoever. The bastard blood, that they're born out of lust, and that they're bad people, and whatever else.
I can see him taking that image, like, bastards are lesser than people, like, they're looked down on, and then in order to combat that, he tries to make himself a more feared individual. So, like, if he can't be loved by people, then he's going to be feared by it.
Yeah, one of those people.
I don't know if that's his actual, like, journey, through his mental development at all.
His spiritual journey of becoming not a bastard.
I don't know if that's his actual emotional, travels, if it actually go like that. But since we don't know, like, it's an interesting thing, like, since, these are actually, like, real people, in the sense of the book, not obviously real, but if we try to visualize these characters as real people with, like, real human conflicting emotions, it'd be interesting to see Ramsay in that light, to where, like, he knows he's looked down upon because he is a bastard and he's not Roos's true heir, so he's going to make people fear him if they won't love him. Well, with Joffrey, we get none of that. He's just a bratty asshole who is actually a giant pussy whenever it comes down to actually swinging swords and doing shit, So because of that, like, Joffrey's entirely unlikable, zero redeeming qualities, like, from this chapter moving forward.
Okay.
How did we get talking about this?
Because I was talking about him being announced Baratheon and Lannister. Lends credence to him being a Lannister bastard.
I don't understand how I got to talking about Ramsay. Anyway, so let's move on to standout appearances. I have Barristan. Yet again, Barristan is, like, super confused. Anytime he's in the same room with Cersei, he's always just like, I don't get it. What's happening, guys? Like, can someone explain this to me? He's confused, he's embarrassed, and then he gets angry. It's just like, it's not a good day for Barry. He's had better ones. He gets fired. The first Kingsguard person to get fired. Really sad. But then he shit talks his brothers because they're assholes, and he walks out like a boss. He has a really, you can't really call it a quitting story, but like he got fired and then he made it a memorable day for everybody there. What do you have?
No, I totally agree. His dismissal broke my heart. Like, the way that they treated him was completely unfair, and they're just such assholes, to talk to a legend like that, to Barristan the Bold. But he went out like a G, like you said, telling them that he could still cut through them. He was faithful to his oaths. He didn't want anything to do with the lands and the servants that were being offered to him. And for someone that they considered to be old and frail, too old to protect the king, he sure was able to scare his former brothers with just a single look. They didn't even try to approach him. They were that scared of him.
The thing that got me is when even the other men of the Kingsguard, the 5 that had been his brothers until a moment ago, surely that must have hurt the most, Sansa thought. And I was just like, how do to all these 5 dudes? Because Boris Blunt, Meryn Trant, dickheads, fair enough. Apparently, Eris Oakheart and Mandon Moore are involved in that, and it's like, I thought y'all were better.
Yeah.
Preston Greenfield, we don't know anything about him, but he's obviously there, and he's laughing at Barristan. I mean, obviously Barristan doesn't hold them in high regard either.
Yeah.
But I think it was, I don't know if Barristan actually meant those words when he said them. It was more like if you're going to actually serve under the Kingslayer, then, fuck you guys, even though Barristan served with him too afterwards. So I think he was just getting angry and just throwing stuff out, but having them laugh at him, I was just like, that ain't cool, man. You only got to do that. Because I end up liking Eris Oakheart in Feast.
Yeah.
I thought he was actually going to be like a big character, but he wasn't at all.
So another thing you reminded me of, so when he is telling them, anybody that would serve under the Kingslayer, fuck you guys. And Sansa notes that when he says Kingslayer, like he says it with so much contempt. And you just mentioned that he still served with him. Do you think Barristan... Well, no, because Jaime doesn't tell anybody the true story, right? Brienne is the only one he's ever shared the story with? Okay, never mind then.
I don't think we ever have a scene with Jaime and Barristan together, do we?
I'm going to say no.
It would have been interesting to see what that was like. I don't think Jaime thinks about Barristan either.
Well, when Jaime... is it in Feast or Storm when Jaime goes through the book and he's reading about all of Barristan's deeds, and Barristan even wrote in the book that he was dismissed?
I can't recall.
Shame.
Well, no, I know he looks at the book and all that stuff. I just don't remember that particular part of it.
Well, because he's like the list of deeds, because I think it's even written on his page that he slew King Aerys, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And like he was going over
Barristan has like
Jerry's
this long ass
page,
and Jaime
Jerry's
has, like,
page,
one
Barry's
line.
page, yeah, everybody. Okay, did you have anybody else for standout appearances?
I had Joffrey. He grants mercy to Sansa's request. He's very uncharacteristic, but I mean we've talked about that at length already.
I had Joffrey as well. Basically, with his first appearance as king, he attempts to act the part, kind of how you were talking earlier, being the model king. But his age and immaturity quickly come out after everything with Barristan. He demands that Barristan be seized. And basically that was all because, verbatim, he called me boy and talked about my Uncle Stannis.
Yeah. He kind of lets his guard drop there for a second. So let's jump on to theories, eh? I had a couple of things revolving Barristan. So, and these are 2 what ifs. I had what if Barristan joined Stannis instead of heading over to Daenerys. And then I had what if Barristan didn't get dismissed at all. So how do you think those 2 scenarios would have played out?
I think Barristan did not go to Stannis because he felt like a failure. For Jaehaerys and Aerys dying under his watch. Like we talked about earlier, it wasn't his fault. There wasn't anything he could do about it. But I feel I feel like because he was so true to his oaths and his original oaths were to Targaryen kings, that he felt loyalty to the Targaryen cause. So that's why I don't see him like that's as a reason why he didn't go to Stannis. If he had gone to Stannis, I don't really know how things would have been different because Stannis doesn't really take counsel from anybody other than Mel and Davos off and on in like Clash until he decides that Davos is his hand because he goes back and forth with him. Like he
You don't
wants
think he'd listen to Barristan?
I don't know.
I definitely think he would. If Barristan went to him immediately after, I think Stannis would have appreciated that first of all. I can see Barristan, because Joffrey is, first of all, illegitimate, so upon hearing that news, he'll be like, well, then my rightful place is here under Stannis.
Mhm.
And I think he did that job admirably. Might have died at Blackwater, depending on how Stannis deployed him. But then had he survived and they lose Blackwater as they do, then you have Barristan up north. That could have been all kinds of really cool and different dynamics going on up there. I can't get behind, like, I know why he does it and how he's just like, Joffrey fired me, so I'm going to abandon the entire Baratheon line and go to Daenerys because I now have the ability to choose. I think that's how he kind of rationalizes it in his head, and because he's not beholden to the Kingsguard vows, so he picks who he wants to do. I always thought that was a little weird why he did go to Daenerys and not Stannis, but fair enough. Oh, but if he didn't get dismissed, I wondered then if he would have been selected to... No, he wouldn't have been selected to defend Tyrion, or to even challenge Tyrion, right? Because Gregor was selected. So that could have been interesting if he was picked to fight Oberyn in Tyrion's trial.
I don't
That
think
would have been
that would
pretty
have
nuts.
happened.
Well, because it was the Hand of the King starting the trial, right? To defend the king, or in a trial of who killed the king. So I don't remember exactly why Gregor was chosen to begin with.
I've gotten into a lot of arguments over this because I didn't understand it either. And the way it was explained to me was that the Kingsguard is necessary to defend a member of the royal family. So Tyrion was the one on trial, so Tyrion could choose his champion. And it was the crown that was putting him on trial, and the crown could just choose whoever. But that doesn't make any sense to me.
No, it doesn't make any sense either.
Okay, well, I've got
If the
like...
crown... Yeah, no, if the crown is issuing this trial and then is challenged in a trial by combat, shouldn't the crown have to choose from the Kingsguard? I'm sure it explains it in the books. I just can't remember why Gregor was selected.
Because Cersei picks him. Cersei calls for him to come back because he's out in the Riverlands fucking shit up.
It almost seems like that's a Kingsguard spot, but I don't know. Like I said, I'm sure the books explain why Kingsguard are not selected.
Well, I asked that question in a certain book group and got chewed out for it, so yeah.
Okay, well, I'm asking the question now, so if y'all want to fucking chew me out, I dare you.
It's not our group, we'll be fine.
But no, so like, how would the rest of King's Landing have gone had Barristan stayed there? I don't think there was a whole lot left. There's a bunch of religious fanatics and whatnot, right?
What do you mean?
Nothing else happens in King's Landing for the Kingsguard to do anything. Aerys gets sent with Myrcella.
Aerys is with
Loras
Myrcella.
Goes to Dragonstone.
Barristan probably would have gone and done that.
To Dragonstone?
Mm-hmm. Instead of Loras.
Because he would retain his Lord Commander spot, so would Jaime still have been sent to the Riverlands?
Well, if Barristan went to Dragonstone. Jaime was only sent...
Why would Barristan go to Dragonstone?
Because he's a commander. He's someone who would lead something like that.
Jaime was the Lord Commander. He wasn't sent to Dragonstone.
Well, Cersei doesn't send Loras. Loras requests to go.
Yeah, so why would Barristan automatically go in place of Loras? So I was just placing him in Jaime's position. If Jaime was sent to deal with the Riverlands, would Barristan have been sent there anyway? Because he probably would have been able to negotiate the surrender from Blackfish.
No, I don't think so.
At least he would have done better than Jaime did.
Oh yeah, because Jaime doesn't know what honor is. Honor is a horse. But no, Barristan wouldn't have gone because Cersei deliberately sent Jaime because she was mad at him and she wanted him away.
So then Barristan would have stayed there?
I think Barristan would have stayed in King's Landing. I don't think he would have been the one to go on that mission to go chill the people out. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because you're framing it as Jaime had to go because he was Lord Commander.
Well, doesn't Jaime make that decision himself?
I thought Cersei sent him, like, was he trying to get away from her?
Well, what power does Cersei have over the Lord Commander?
She's Queen Regent.
Doesn't matter, does it?
Well,
The Lord Commander doesn't. He's to the king, not to the Queen Regent.
well, if the king hasn't come into his kingship yet, then the queen is the acting king. We need to figure
Yeah,
out how this
probably.
society works. Because that comes a lot of our questions.
Because I think a lot of the stuff that I think a lot of what Jaime does from Cersei's request is just because of their relationship, not because of the Queen, not because of the Regent Lord Commander relationship. You know? No, probably because the Hand can still order the Lord Commander, and the Regent is virtually acting as like an empowered hand, even though there's a hand position too. So
The
yeah,
Regent
you're
is
probably
above
right.
the hand, yes.
Yeah. Anyway, so the next part I had for the theory part, it calls back to the two things that I mentioned earlier in the quotes about how Barristan was too old, and then about none of them are worthy to serve under the Kingslayer. So I was wondering, like, if you could pick Robert's Kingsguard from the moment that he ascends the Iron Throne, which 7 would you pick? So go ahead, Lillian.
You're going to have me go
7.
first?
Yeah. Pick your 7 and why you would pick them.
So I kept 2 of Robert's Kingsguard. I kept Barristan and Jaime. Barristan because he's a legend, and even with his age, well, we're talking about 17 years prior, so wouldn't have been that old. Well, he's, you know what I mean. It's Barristan the Bold. He's a legend. Jaime was a member of the Kingsguard. His loyalty could be questioned, but with Robert marrying Cersei, I feel like it was a safe bet to keep Jaime around. After that, it gets a little weird with my list. My next choice was Sir Lyn Corbray, because he's a renowned fighter. At the Trident, his father is slain, and he picks up Lady Forlorn and cuts down, I think, Prince Lewin Martell immediately after. And when I was thinking about how to select Robert's Kingsguard, I started thinking of different knights from each region, but not every region follows the 7, so not every region necessarily has knights. So I was trying to think of somebody in the north. I think Robert would have a decent hold on the north because of Ned, but I did think of Jorah Mormont because he technically is a knight, and he would be in the right, age range. He participated in the Greyjoy Rebellion, I believe. Did he?
He did.
Okay.
Yep.
So he's in that age range with them, and he's fought side by side with them, so they know him. I also picked out Lord Beric Dondarrion, and although he's a lord with lands and titles, he is a known fighter. He would be young. Jaime was another one who was young and had lands and titles, or was the potential heir to have lands and titles, and he set them aside. So I don't think it's too much to ask for someone else to do that as well. I also picked Victarion Greyjoy. This one was kind of random. So during Robert's Rebellion, Quellin Greyjoy ended up taking Robert's side, and Quellin ends up dying, so then Balon becomes the Lord of the Iron Islands, Lord of Pike. What is he called?
Lord Reaver of Pike.
Lord Reaver of Pike. Okay, and so his brothers, you have Euron, Victarion, Aeron. Are they the only ones left that are alive? I feel like they are.
Yeah.
Of Quellin's sons. Quellin had 9 sons, of which Aeron was the smallest or some shit, is the quote from Feast. I don't know. Anyways, so I picked Victarion because Euron is batshit crazy, and he's a cool pirate dude. I don't think he would give that up ever. And Victarion is just a beast, so I feel like him and Robert could share war stories, and Robert would be, like, stoked to have someone like him next to him. Yeah, don't make that face. And then my last one is extremely questionable. I figured we gotta get someone from Dorne, right? So who's a good fighter from Dorne that would be
No.
the right age range And everything else,
No,
it would have to be a couple years after
no,
Robert's Rebellion, because he did try to claim the throne for Viserys, but Prince Oberyn Martell is my last pick for the Kingsguard.
disagree.
I know it was a bad choice. This was
I
hard.
don't think that would ever happen. But most of them are fine. Victorian and Oberyn, I don't know.
I was proud of Lynn. That was the only one I was proud of. The other ones, I was like, I am reaching. I don't even know.
No, Lynn was an excellent choice. Um, so I had Brynden Tully being first named as Lord Commander. He's a second son. He has no land titles of his own, and he's a notable war commander at the time, and he was on the winning side. So it seems like a great honor to be bestowed upon House Tully. I also had Lynn Corbray, again a second son, a recently acquired Valyrian steel weapon, and no lands and titles coming into his own. So it seems like an honorable choice to make
And
there.
he would not have a problem with abstaining from sex with females.
Except from females, it's not no part of.
Anyways, continue with
But
your list. Sorry.
Lewin continued with his sexual adventures, and according to who you believe, so did that fucking dude from Dance of the Dragons,
Kristen Cole?
Kristen Cole. Yeah, apparently he fucked around with Rhaenyra.
Yes.
Anyway, the Western representative, I had Davin Lannister. He is Steffan Lannister's son. He is Steffan Lannister, like Tywin's cousin or something like that. And Jaime and Kevin both hold Davin in kind of a higher regard. Towards the end of Feast or Dance or something like that, he's Cersei names him Warden of the West whenever Kevin does his hissy fit, so she picks him over Kevin. Keeping Eris Oakheart, because why not? I'm keeping Manon Moore. Couldn't remember this, but he's actually a really good fighter. Barristan Selmy says about him, I'm reading this from the wiki, that he has no friend but his sword and no life but duty. Jaime Lannister considers him the most dangerous of the Kingsguard after himself. And then apparently he just doesn't have any friends. No one likes him, really, but he's a really good fighter.
He's so dangerous that
and
he
Jon
can
Arryn,
be killed by a 10-year-old boy.
Podrick snuck up on him. He howled and read him.
That did not happen in the books. We're not gonna know. I refuse to believe. I refuse to.
No.
Shut up with your fucking frog people.
This is my turn.
You're fucking frog people.
This is my turn. This is my turn. And he was Jon Arryn's choice to the Kingsguard.
No, he wasn't.
This is my fucking turn.
Okay. I should start making a list of everything I'm disagreeing with then.
My time. Number 6 is Sir Richard Horpe. So he actually wanted to be on the Kingsguard, and Robert was gonna let him, but Cersei spoke up against him. So in my headcanon, Cersei keeps her mouth shut, and Robert actually names him there. Stannis names him the Slayer, and he's really good at fighting and stuff. In my 7th one, I was running out of people, so I picked Sir Aaron Florent. Aaron Florent is Selyse's brother, Stannis' brother-in-law. So it's kind of like as a way of bringing in the Florents into the fold and kind of raising their station a bit. He is a knight. There's a bunch of other Florent brothers and second brothers of Alistair Florent, who's Stannis' first hand of the king, and then Selyse also has a couple of other brothers too, none of which really beheld titles or lands of their own. So any of them would have done. I just chose Aaron because it sounded closer to my name. But yeah, so those are my 7. Lord Commander Brynden Blackfish Tully, Sir Lynn Corbray, Sir Davin Lannister, Sir Aerys Oakheart, Sir Manon Moore, Sir Richard Horpe, and Sir Aaron Florent. I think that's a pretty solid Kingsguard right there.
I was looking for some Florents and Fossaways. Honestly, I thought of those families, and I couldn't think of somebody good to place in there.
I did think of Fossaways, but then when I thought Fossaway, I was like, oh, Florents are higher than Fossaways, so...
So Jon Arryn did not choose to put Manon Moore on the Kingsguard.
Oh, really? Who told Robert to put him on the Kingsguard then?
Jon Arryn. But who told John Aaron?
Well, that was an interesting point there. Good job, Lillian.
You know what I'm getting at.
And that seems like it's gonna wrap.
Oh, fuck you. You dick.
No, she's gonna say that Peter told Lysa, told John to tell Robert
Exactly.
to put him on.
Yes, that is what happened.
Because 17 years later, Min and Moore is hired to Tyrion. So obviously, the entire time for 17 years, Min and Moore, the Kingsguard, is a Littlefinger agent.
Well, no, it is stated somewhere in one of these books, in one of the books, that John Aaron had no love for Mandon Moore. So it does make sense that
Nobody liked Mandon Moore. I said that.
You said he had no friends.
As in, nobody liked him.
Well, just because he doesn't consider anybody his friend doesn't mean people don't consider him their friend.
He had no friend but his sword and no life but duty. I said that. Well, Barristan said that, but I quoted Barristan.
I said that.
It's like your Robert Rebellion meme that he takes from John Aaron.
Oh.
I made this.
That's my answer to everybody who Robert's Rebellion was built on a lie. No.
Barristan's like, this is my quote, and then I take it. This is my quote.
Yes, exactly. So what do we have? What do we have coming up next, Eric? You don't know, do you?
We haven't done Cat in a while.
So up next we have Catelyn 9, where we're introduced to Walder Frey.
That was a guess. Lillian keeps the schedule, not me. But yeah, so apparently we have a Catelyn chapter next week where we get to meet Walder Frey, and it's gonna be. It could be fun, mayhaps.
Oh, you fucking idiot. Close it out. Just close it out.
Get it? Oh, fuck. That's the podcast. I'm done.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for listening. Like us. Follow us on SoundCloud. Let us know what you think. If you'd pick some other people for Robert's Kingsguard, let us know in the comments. It'd be great to hear what everybody else thinks, because our choices... Okay, my choices weren't that great. So let us know.
Good save. My choices are perfect.
All right. Thanks, guys.
See ya.